As the start of the 2025 season approaches, we can confidently conclude that Lewis Hamilton is the favorite to win the drivers' title and Ferrari favorite to win the constructors. We are anticipating a return to 2014, when Sir Lewis and Nico Rosberg were thrilling viewers as they battled for the championship, before things went sour. This year we expect the contest between the two Ferrari drivers to be close and clean. Charles could possibly open a gap at the start while Sir Lewis is settling in, but, barring any technical issues, we expect the GOAT to surge to victory at the end. But, before going further, we would like to urge those of you who haven't yet done so, to sign our online petition for an inquiry into the BBC and Channel 4's coverage of what happened in Abu Dhabi. A link has been provided in the description. If you are on X, then please repost our tweet. Thank you. F1 is all about the combination of car and driver, putting the best drivers in the best cars. As we have shown in several videos, the driver's champion usually comes from the winning constructor. There have only been 2 instances in the last quarter of a century or so, in which the driver's champion was not driving the winning car. Mika Hakkinen won a closely contested drivers' championship in 1999, driving for McLaren Mercedes, while Ferrari won the constructors. In 2008, Sir Lewis, again driving for McLaren Mercedes, won yet another closely contested drivers' championship, with Ferrari again winning the constructors. It is an indication of how Liberty Media corrupted F1, that going back over 25 years, there have been only 2 drivers, 9 years apart, who have achieved the feat that an FIA-assisted crashtapper did twice in 4 seasons. The first was in 2021, when they robbed Sir Lewis of his race victory and title, but the constructors went to Mercedes. The second came just 3 years later, when an FIA-assisted Max won the title with 2 races to spare, while the constructors went to McLaren Mercedes, another FIA-assisted team. As Max was running away with the 2024 title before mid-season, the FIA suddenly made Red Bull change something on their car that caused them to lose speed, resulting in an immediate slump in performance. Once Red Bull were overhauled by McLaren Mercedes, the FIA then made the champion designate change something on their car that took away from their performance as well. So, it appears that the FIA are following the WWE style of referees, only spotting what the bad guys are doing, at the point indicated in the script. But the problem for them is that F1 has a long and distinguished history, before Liberty Media came along, so when unusual events start occurring more frequently, then something is up behind the scenes. Furthermore, the fact that those Verstappen feats went largely unnoticed and uncelebrated also points to consciousness of guilt, matched only by McLaren Mercedes gaslighting the shame of their driver setting the record for losing the title with 2 races to go, and by the widest margin ever. It was necessary to take the time to point out the backdrop to last season, to underscore why Sir Lewis and Ferrari are favourites for 2025. Critically, as Craig Slater of Sky F1 pointed out while covering Sir Lewis's first outing in a Ferrari, while the FIA was busy orchestrating the switcheroo between McLaren Mercedes and Red Bull, Charles was busy accumulating more points than anyone else after the summer break.
Now at Ferrari, is he going to top things off with that 8th championship? It's going to be tough. His teammate, Charles Leclerc, scored more points than anyone else after the summer break last season. But in a sense, that also shows that maybe a championship is possible in this debut Ferrari season. He came so close to a championship in his first F1 season. Many people feel he should have 8 titles already, given what happened in Abu Dhabi in 2021.
Charles and Ferrari went on a Lewis-like surge that took the fight for the constructors' title to the final race, along with that of the second-place driver. This means that Ferrari were the team that finished strongest last season, and this augurs well for this season. This is because historically in F1, there are mainly marginal improvements that are made year on year, between periods under the same regulations. It takes the introduction of new regulations to induce a more dramatic change in fortunes. That is why, for example, Red Bull could maintain their technological advantage between 2010 and 2013, until new regulations ushered in the period of Mercedes' dominance from 2014 to 2021, and then a new set of regulations and FIA skullduggery ushered in the so-called period of Red Bull dominance. The so-called Red Bull period of dominance, which lasted for 2 seasons but produced 4 drivers' titles, is yet another high-profile indicator of manipulation. The record-breaking FIA-assisted Red Bull, who ran away with the titles in 2022 and 2023, suddenly dropped to a distant third last year when the FIA took their ill-gotten advantage away. This is yet another indication of skullduggery, because dominant teams don't suddenly fall away in the middle of the regulations that underscored their dominance. Last year's McLaren-Mercedes championship title also set records that clearly point to manipulation. This was the first time ever in Formula One history, dating back over 25 years to 1999, that a team that finished outside the top 3 in the previous year went on to win the title the following year. Coincidentally, this was also the first time that a customer team finished ahead of its engine supplier during the same 25-year period. A charitable suggestion would be that McLaren somehow made giant strides with their chassis either at the beginning of the season, but their drivers did not get going until much later, or they made the giant strides mid-season, which is even more implausible. But whichever option you choose, the situation where a cluster of unprecedented or unusual events start occurring at the same time clearly indicates that something is going on behind the scenes. Critically, while the FIA were busy faffing around with Red Bull and McLaren-Mercedes, Charles and Ferrari were busy getting on with business and finishing strongly. Ferrari have always been the most iconic F1 team, and are far more politically astute than a virtue-signaling Mercedes, that were pretending to be rising above the unfair attacks on Sir Lewis, when they were actually enabling them to protect Schumacher's legacy. Given that Ferrari have been starved of glory for almost 2 decades, and the news of the transfer last season alone yielded an immediate record-breaking hike in market capitalization that propelled them ahead of Mercedes for the first time ever, and lifted spirits in the team and the fans, it would be foolhardy for anybody in F1 or the FIA to continue with the rubbish that Toto and Mercedes used to let them get away with, as far as Sir Lewis was concerned. Mattia Binotto, former Ferrari team principal, and current client as Sauber team principal, found this out very quickly when he foolishly attempted to join the ranks of those spouting unhinged rubbish about the GOAT's transfer to Ferrari. So, we expect a hungry Ferrari, that finished the last season on the ascendancy and in second place, to give their full support to both their drivers on and off the track, in their collective effort to win both the drivers' and constructors' title. For this reason, we predict that after a close contest between Sir Lewis and Charles, the GOAT will emerge victorious as Ferrari run away with the constructors' title. Forza Ferrari.